Hi there, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty for this Memorial Day weekend 2013. Hope that the weather is nice where you are and you have some nice plans this weekend. One significant thing that has happened this week is that two FBI agents involved in the Boston Marathon bombing arrest fell, and that's in quotation marks here. I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny, but they just the absurdity. Oh, oops. They happened to die, these guys. Oops. They died. Sorry.
I just can't help but flash back to some other helicopter incident that had to do with some SEALs right after Osama bin Laden was supposedly captured. So this is like, helicopters are dangerous places to be nowadays, aren't they? Yes, if you're an FBI agent and might be prone to telling the truth when your bosses don't want you to, you might just fall out of a helicopter accidentally.
In fact, just to mention it, some of the families of the SEAL Team 6 guys who were killed in the helicopter accident have been asking some hard questions this week, and some of them blame the Obama administration for that. They're openly saying that there were issues with that.
Yeah, truth has a way of coming out. The problem is that it gets less attention than the lies in the beginning, and we'll get into more of that later. But this is just a famous propaganda tactic that we have to use our brains and get our head around. How this media splash in the very beginning is what captures people's attention, but then often comes out with a big megaphone doesn't agree with all of the details that come later, and it's only a public that's paying attention that's going to see what's really going on.
And here's another oops having to do with the Boston Marathon bombing fallout. FBI agent kills Chechen man during questioning about Boston bombing suspects and 2011 murder. Oops, they shot him. Oh, they were asking him questions, and oops, they shot him.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually said, they're gonna shoot me. They're gonna come and get me, and they're gonna shoot me. He knew what was going on. This guy knew what was going down. He was a friend of the patsy, and he got taken out because he was too dangerous. They couldn't have somebody that knew the truth talk, even if he swore not to or whatever. So this is what tyranny does to contain their version of the truth.
And of course, there was a cover story. They said that he somehow got hold of a knife, and an unnamed official said that an FBI agent was stabbed several times. But the FBI said in a press release that the agent sustained non-life-threatening injuries. So there's always a cover story, and as you were saying, just the fact that we can't believe what they say anymore. There's no way to tell what's true and what's not true.
It's only when the public becomes knowledgeable enough to begin to think that the guys in the uniforms might not always be the good guys, that they might have really bad motives. It's only when we can consider that possibility and start asking the questions that we're going to get the truth, because otherwise we're just too easily bamboozled, and that's what's happening now.
Speaking of being bamboozled,
Googled?
How would you like a free website including a domain name? Because Google wants to give you one if you have a business.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, and then I'll get lots more business, and then I'll be really successful, and then they're going to do all my web design for me, and they're going to keep all my data. Oh, well, that's okay, because it's all up in the cloud, and it's going to be safe up there, and I can always access it whenever I want to know anything, and those nice men at Google are going to keep it safe for me.
You know what? There's a bridge in Brooklyn that I would like to sell you.
I heard that the going rate is like $24 worth of bees or something. Well, that's Manhattan.
Oh, yeah. So there's, we talked about this earlier, Don and I, and just the possibilities here for Google are endless. If somebody has a really good business idea and their website is thriving, Google's going to know it right away, and they can either send somebody to buy them out, or they can just have a competing business that does the same thing in the same way. And you're so dangling out in the wind here.
Yeah, and this also ties into your whole idea about how they're not going to bother to try to control us through government anymore. They're going to control us through the corporations, and what better way to do that than through Google? That's the master manipulator. That's the NSA spinoff that now has its hooks into everything that's on the web. So, of course, what better way for Google to take over California than to offer free websites to California businesses?
Yeah, there was an article this week, or it might have been last week. Google is planning to take over the world. Google admittedly wants everybody's online experience to be completely within the context of Google. They want to craft everybody's online experience completely.
Yeah, so people should learn to, when you say search for something, don't say Google it. Begin to use other search engines. You should be well on your way doing that by now. There's ones, as you mentioned before, startpage.com, and there's others that protect your privacy. So don't say Google it, because these guys that have the slogan "Don't be evil" are very evil. This is a master deception at work here. Don't participate.
And it's past time really, but we're becoming aware of it, to become really serious about protecting your identity. 60 Minutes did a piece a couple weeks ago where they just took some random photos on a college campus and were able to, with using the photo ID, just identifying people by their photographs, they were able to find people's names, even social security numbers. So, and one student said, "You won't find me there because I'm very careful about what I put online." But one of his friends had posted his photo, so they found him using this software. So all of us are out there, and we really don't have private lives anymore.
Well, yeah, Facebook is one big avenue for exposure, and even if you try to limit your exposure there, people can tag you in photographs, and so we would highly advise that that you have the setting that you're not allowed to just have a photo tagged unless you approve it, stuff like that, and then you would probably not allow most of them. So yeah, and used to be that you could make your photos private. Now your Facebook photo needs to be public. We're going off into Facebook, but that's just a big example. Another thing is that I'd like to read from a privacy newsletter that I'm just beginning to subscribe to, and this has to do with the license plate reader cameras that are being used by the patrol cars, the police patrol cars, and highway patrol cars. Law enforcement agencies are increasingly using sophisticated cameras called automated license plate readers, ALPR, to scan and record the license plate of millions of cars across the country. The cameras mounted on the top of patrol cars and on city streets can scan up to 18,000 license plates per minute, day or night, allowing one squad car to record more than 40,000 plates during the course of a single shift. And all that goes into a database which is not purged, and that means that there are records of where your car is. And you've seen all of these cameras on street corners and whatnot. That's not throwaway information. That's going into a digital database, and then your license plate can be tied to, in your movements, in your vehicle, to virtually anything, and for what becomes a permanent record. This is really bad news. I mean, people really need to rise up and say, no, you can't do this, because this is, it's not that you're being charged with a crime, but the agencies involved are saying, well, we need to keep this on record in case there is a crime. So at what point does it become an invasion of privacy? I think some time ago.
And just along with that, the idea of people living their lives online, involuntarily giving up their privacy. I had an article yesterday in the 50 Cent Tour that the new Xbox has a camera that sees in the dark and a microphone that can't be turned off, and the Xbox is permanently wired into the internet. Anytime you're using the Xbox, it's online, and I think even when it's turned off, it stays connected to the internet. So in that case, people are completely surrendering their privacy, whether they're aware of it or not. And people have accepted the idea of living their lives online, the digital crossover. How is technology changing our society? And this is not an extremely deep article, but one thing that it mentions is that the number of teens with driver licenses is dropping dramatically. In 1983, 69% of 17-year-olds had a license. In 2010, only 48% of 17-year-olds had one. So kids are not going out and doing things. They're staying at home. And this one teen responded when asked about it, "I drive less because I have become a couch potato. The internet takes me anywhere I want to go, and services like Netflix provide entertainment at the touch of a button. It's also a lot more affordable," which you can't deny that. But
Yeah, well, that's how they're hooking you into everything, is that they cut off the alternate routes or the routes to reality and give you the alternate routes of unreality, and people are going for it. And yeah, the internet is a great tool if you use it to gather information, but if you use it to entertain yourself, it's a bottomless pit.
absolutely. And you know, I find this amusing, like right here, talking about photos showing up places. Find us on Facebook. You know, and I might black this out, but when we edit this, but they put people's Facebook icons right here. They pull it in from Facebook into another website. And so anything that you do online, it shows up everywhere. And Facebook actually has a setting that allows it to access your other apps. And you know, I've been on my iPhone using an app, and a little thing pops up from Facebook. They want to fully integrate this your online experience into things that they control.
Yeah, the example of having your photo on a web page, and you know, you don't have to be somebody's friend in order to see that person's photo, but that does place your visual identity into the public arena, and that's why I don't have my photo as my face anymore for Facebook. I'm using an icon that is for something else. So yeah, you have to find ways, and as your conscience leads, and whatever seems right to you, find ways to limit your exposure.
And live real life. I mean, as far as this article, there is hope. Is humanity destined to a future of dehumanized, disconnected dystopia? I don't think so. The human spirit is resilient. The drive to genuinely connect cannot be silenced forever. The pendulum will swing in the opposite direction as more people realize how our dependency on technology has crippled us. Take the lead today and start unplugging as much as you can. So, good advice, especially for a holiday weekend.
Indeed.
And for people who want to live real life, you can protest Monsanto. Today is the challenging Monsanto. 200,000 in 40 countries expected to turn up as campaign against GMO kicks off. So there will be opportunities in the future. But you know, it's a great experience. We went to an End the Fed rally once, and it's wonderful to get out and meet other liberty-minded people and mingle with them and live real life and find that there are people with whom you have much in common.
And we need to realize that as far as the Monsanto and GMO whole thing goes, the U.S. is way behind the curve, as we're going to mention in a minute, with the state of the awareness of real news in the United States. That GMOs, most of the world is much more aware of GMOs than we are here in the United States, and we really need to ramp up and begin to educate people, because this is one of the primary reasons why the U.S. is overweight and dumbed down and cancer-ridden. It's in large part due to the GMOs, and until you research it, you won't know that. And more people need to know it, because that's the real answer for a big part of the health problems in our country. It's not Obamacare. It's not trying to put people into some sick care system. It's to improve and the stuff that we put in our bodies, and GMO is a big part of that.
So here is what Don was referring to, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Americans are super ignorant. He doesn't say super ignorant. He actually says woefully ignorant. And we have paused it at about the time he says that. I won't play it here, but we'll post the link with this timestamp so that you can get right to the point that he's making.
Yeah, and he talks about how when a public is as ignorant as the American public is now, that you're easily the victim of demagoguery, and meaning that you could be manipulated by anybody that's trying to claim they're protecting you and they're the authority. So there's no substitute for doing the research yourself and finding out what's true. But by and large, Americans are not doing that, and it also makes it extremely difficult for people that are trying to lead in the right direction, because they can't talk about issues without the public knowing what the primary issues are. If they think the real issues are Dancing with the Stars and, oh yeah, we got to spend some more money on this project, and don't really understand real economics, etc., then how in the world are we going to turn this around? So, he does outline the problem here. And now, I want to make everybody aware that Zbigniew Brzezinski is a top-notch global controller. He's not saying this because he wants the best interests of Americans. He's saying this in a way bragging at how well they've done their job. You won't see that in his attitude because he's smart. He's a very clever sociopath and psychopath, probably. So that is what it is. And it is a sad state of affairs, but there's a lot of truth being spoken here.
He's a very snappy dresser, you gotta admit that. But one thing I did want to say about what he says, he gets a little, he lets us know what it is that Americans are interested in. He says that Americans are not interested in exercising their brains and learning about what's really going on. He says that Americans are interested in basically sports and sitcoms. And he's, that we have done that with our own free will. And you can say that we've been manipulated. We can say that they've given us an easy path to walk into that place. But he is correct that we have exercised our own free will to bring ourselves to this place.
Now you sound like you're kind of all faggy there. You're using some big words. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Maybe you should be president.
Brondo's got what plants crave. So yeah, if we take the low road, if we take the easy way, of course it's, men and water to take the path of least resistance, and doesn't take us
And
to a
and
good place.
and we thought our lives were easy because it was God's blessing. I tell you, it was not God's blessing. It was the enemy's entrapment scheme that was happening, and we better snap out of it real quick because the end game of all of this is really right at our door.
However, something good could happen. More signs that the Illuminati financial power structure is collapsing. It really does depend on people being awake and squawking and making noise and refusing to buy from companies that grow GMO crops. But Europe opens $80 trillion shadow banking Pandora's box, will seek to collapse repo collateral chains. So we're definitely watching this. We hear all kinds of rumors about a new global financial structure. We'll see where that goes. But Tyler Durden always makes it easy for us to understand because he draws pictures. And while we're still recovering our brain power, the pictures help.
Yeah, absolutely. And there really is a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's interesting to note that as we were discussing before, how the public is being manipulated by this long-term strategy of being able to dumb down people. Well, a lot of the good guys also know how to use propaganda because they've used them in third world countries and have brought about dictatorships. I'm talking about the CIA. And there's a whole gray area there where these guys, although they might have done it to other people, they don't like seeing it being done to Americans. Actually, Kennedy was like this. He was okay with false flags in other parts of the world, but Operation Northwoods, no, don't you use that on Americans. And he drew the line, and that got him killed, among other things. So there are a lot of people like that, CIA white hats, that are rising up today, and they're fighting these battles behind the scenes. And a lot of what I see coming out that has to do with exposing Obama on multiple fronts, I see it as being kind of a takedown operation that's being orchestrated by people that know how to do such things and have done it in other countries, but are not the bad guys. They're the good guys. The reason they can't go completely open with their information is because it can't be assimilated by the public. The problem has to be spoken to at the level that it can be comprehended. So one thing at a time, and we are making progress. There is something going on, but it's not fully surfaced yet. It probably will very soon. And then you'll need to see some massive education happening. I'm not sure how gradual it's going to be. It may be somewhat gradual, but I don't think it can be completely gradual, this unveiling. We'll see.
Well, China is said to be one of the countries, the BRICS countries, probably led by China, who are really anxious, if I can use that word, to make this change appear. And will they wait for the rest of the world? This China launching gold-backed global currency. China wants change. They want, supposedly they want a merit-based, asset-backed financial system, and they may just move on it without waiting for the rest of us.
Yeah, and to what extent the old guard leadership of the New World Order is involved in this remains to be seen, because we know that they have been shifting all of their industry and manufacturing capability into China, into the Far East, for a long time. In fact, China just recently completed a purchase of a large amount of Rothschild gold. That was another news item. And so we don't necessarily think that China is 100% lily white, pure good guy, but on the other hand, they do recognize that this fiat money system is going down, and they are, as they rise into prominence on the world scene as a major economic power, are not going to go that route. Again, I think all this has been planned for a long time by the global elite. The issue is also that there are a lot of good people involved in our part of the world, but also in China, that want to steer this in the direction of an equitable system. So there is a battle going on, and some things are going to start shaking out. Our economic situation in the United States will probably not be rosy, but it is a lot better. It will handle the transition a lot better than it would have if there had not been people like the Chinese that wanted to preserve an American middle class so that they would have markets for their goods. Otherwise, we probably would have gone the way of Soviet Russia with an economic collapse. And it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's becoming less likely as we see the new economic system taking shape.
With on that light note, not really, that's pretty heavy stuff, but we do thank you for joining us this week for Pearls of Liberty, and we hope that you have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we definitely want to remember the fallen soldiers, and we want to remember the fallen soldiers who did not happen to be military men as well. Some people who have given their lives for the truth, people like Aaron Swartz, and going back a little, maybe Bob Marley, and men who have, and women who have been freedom fighters, who did not wear uniforms but were freedom fighters nonetheless, and who sacrificed their lives. And also for those in uniform, we do remember.
Yeah, I firmly believe that those that sacrificed with a pure heart their lives, that gave them for the cause of liberty, whether or not they were duped into to fighting an unjust war or not, as long as their hearts were pure, God is going to redeem that sacrifice. And I believe that in large part the rise of the liberty truth movement is because of those sacrifices that have been made, because they're a part of the fabric of our being in America. This is a nation that was founded on those principles. As far as we've drifted from that, as asleep as many people are, there is no other place on the world that's like that because of the commitment of people that have gone before us. We want to honor them, and we want to say, your sacrifice has not been in vain, and we will continue with, under the leading and the guidance of our Heavenly Father, into a better future. And, as always, I'd like to remind you to see the world the way that it really is. See yourself in it. Walk your walk. You are the one you've been waiting for.